Hello students, Mr. Young here with your vocab for chapter 18. Go ahead, take a good look, and then go on to the quiz. It's a matching quiz, 10 points. So there are 14 words in this chapter. The quiz is going to cover 10 of them. Okay, Reconstruction. The period of rebuilding of the South and readmitting Southern states into the Union. So that whole era, whole chapter is called Reconstruction. Amnesty, the granting of a pardon to a large number of persons. Black Codes, laws passed in the South just after the Civil War aimed at controlling free men and women and allowing plantation owners to take advantage of African American workers. Override, to reject or defeat something that has already been decided. Impeach is to formally charge a public official with misconduct in office. A scalawag, you dirty old scalawag. So a scalawag is a name given by former Confederates to Southern whites who supported Republican Reconstruction of the South. So basically it was people in the South that didn't like losing the war, calling mean names to people that supported the Republicans. Corruption, dishonest or illegal actions. Integrate means to unite or blend into a unified whole. Sharecropping was a system of farming in which farmers worked land for an owner who in turn provided that farmer with equipment and the seeds needed, and in return they would receive a share of the crop. So it's kind of like land renters sharecropping. Poll tax, a tax a person must pay in order to vote. A literacy tax is a method used to prevent African Americans from voting by requiring voters to be able to read and write. Think about it. They were all just slaves, and slaves weren't allowed to read and write, so almost none of them could read or write, so almost none of them could vote if there was a literacy tax. Now this led to what is called the Grandfather Clause. So a Grandfather Clause allowed folk to vote even if they couldn't read or write, as long as their fathers or grandfathers had voted before Reconstruction. So the idea was, how do we make it so that all the free slaves can't vote? We'll make it so you have to read and write, because none of them can read or write. The problem is there were a lot of normal, poor Southern whites that couldn't read or write. So how do we get them to still be able to vote? You grandfather them in with this rule saying that if your grandfather could vote, or your father could vote before the Civil War, you're allowed to vote, because none of the slaves had fathers or grandfathers that were allowed to vote. Alright, segregation, the separation or isolation of a race, class, or group. And lynching means putting to death by the illegal actions of a mob. So it's sort of like a vigilante execution, if you will. You remember that term, vigilante. Alright, hey, that's our vocab. Next page is your quiz. It's matching. It's a basic vocab quiz. You'll see those again on the test. And it's 10 points. You have 2 attempts. Alright, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, tomorrow we'll likely get started with lesson 1. Alright, have a good one.